The stars burned cold against the black void as Commander Zarthok watched his third fleet die. Through the thick glass of his command bridge, he could see the massive shape of the enemy ship cutting through space like a blade through flesh. The Void Render was 3 times larger than any ship in the Deathworld Alliance fleet, and it moved with a grace that made Zarthak's stomach turn. "Sir, the Burning Claw is breaking apart," reported his weapons officer, a 6-armed creature from the acid world of Skorthak. Her voice stayed steady even as green blood dripped from cuts on her face where flying metal had struck her. Zarthak nodded grimly. The Burning Claw had been one of their strongest ships, built from the hardest metals found on volcanic worlds, and crewed by warriors who had survived in environments that would kill most beings in seconds. Now it was just floating pieces of metal and flesh, torn apart by weapons that seemed to bend reality itself. "How many ships do we have left?" Zarthak asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. 12, sir. Down from 43 when we started this battle. 12 ships. Zarthak felt the familiar burn of rage in his chest, the same fire that had kept him alive on Molten's heart since he was a child. His home world was a place where the ground could melt your feet and the air could burn your lungs, but somehow it had been easier to survive there than it was to fight the Void Render. The Deathworld Alliance had been formed 50 years ago when the peaceful species of the galaxy finally admitted they needed help. Pirates, raiders, and worse things lurked in the dark spaces between stars. Who better to fight monsters than those who had grown up surrounded by them? Every member of the Alliance came from worlds that tried to kill them every day. There were the ice warriors from planets where the wind could freeze blood in your veins. There were tunnel fighters from worlds where the sun's radiation could cook you alive in minutes. There were deep-sea creatures from planets covered in oceans of liquid poison. They had all thought they were the toughest beings in the galaxy. They had all been wrong. The Kethvar Empire had appeared 3 months ago with their single ship, the Void Render. They had not asked for surrender or demanded tribute like normal conquerors. They had simply started destroying everything in their path. Military bases, trading stations, entire colonies, all gone, turned to dust by weapons that the Alliance's best scientists could not understand. "Sir, they're charging their main weapon again," called out the sensor operator, a crystal-based life form from a world where metal rain fell constantly. Zarthak could see it too. The front of the Void Render was glowing with a sick purple light that seemed to hurt his eyes just to look at. He had seen that light before, right before it had erased the heavy metal, the Alliance's former flagship, from existence. Not destroyed. It, not blown it up, simply made it stop being there. "All ships, scatter formation Gamma," Zarthak ordered into his communication device. "Do not let them target more than one of us at a time." The remaining Alliance ships spread out like drops of water on a hot surface. They had learned that staying together only made it easier for the Void Render to kill them all at once. Each ship was now alone in the darkness, hoping that they would not be the next target. The purple light grew brighter. Zarthak gripped the arms of his command chair hard enough to leave claw marks in the metal. Around him, his crew prepared for what might be their last moments. Some whispered prayers to the harsh gods of their home worlds. Others simply checked their weapons one more time. The beam fired. It struck the Iron Storm, a ship crewed by miners from the deepest caves of Drill World. The ship did not explode. It did not burn. It simply stopped existing, as if it had never been built at all. One moment it was there, and the next moment there was only empty space. 11 ships left, the weapons officer reported, her voice now showing the first signs of fear. Zarthak felt something cold settle in his stomach. They were losing. The Alliance had never lost a war before, not really. They might lose battles, they might lose ships and warriors, but they always found a way to win in the end. That was what Deathworlders did. They survived things that should kill them, but how do you survive something that simply makes you stop existing? "Sir, we're getting a message from the Void Render," the communications officer said, his snake-like head weaving nervously. "Put it through." The main screen flickered, and suddenly Zarthak was looking at the face of his enemy for the first time. Overlord Mektal was tall and thin, with pale skin that looked like it had never seen sunlight. His eyes were completely black, and when he smiled, his teeth were sharp points that gleamed like metal. "Commander Zarthak of the Molten Fury," Mektal said, his voice smooth and cold. "You have fought well for a primitive species. I offer you one chance to surrender. Submit to the Kethvar Empire, and your people will be allowed to serve us as slaves. Refuse, and you will all simply cease to be." Zarthak stood up slowly. Around him, His bridge crew waited to see what their commander would say. These were beings who had crawled out of the worst places in the galaxy, who had faced down storms and monsters and the death of worlds. They were not the type to surrender. "I have a message for you too, Mektal," Zarthak said, baring his own teeth. "The Deathworld Alliance does not surrender. We do not serve, and we do not stop fighting until we are dead." Mektal's smile grew wider. "How refreshing. It has been so long since I met beings with real spirit. Very well, Commander. Let me show you what happens to those who refuse the Empire's mercy." The screen went dark. "All ships, attack formation Delta," Zarthak ordered. "We are going to ram that thing if we have to." But before the Alliance ships could begin their final charge, something new appeared on the sensors. Long-range detection was picking up multiple contacts approaching from the edge of the system. Whatever they were moving fast. "Sir, unknown ships incoming," the sensor operator reported. "Configuration unknown. They're not in any of our databases." Zarthak frowned. There were no Alliance reinforcements coming. He had already used every ship they could spare, and these signals were coming from a direction where no known civilizations existed. "How many ships?" he asked. "At least 30, sir. Maybe more. They're moving in a tight formation. 30 ships might not be enough to defeat the Void Render, but they could be enough to help the Alliance escape." Zarthak felt a small spark of hope in his chest. Maybe they would live to fight another day after all. The new ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the battle zone. Zarthak stared at them in confusion. They looked different from any ships he had ever seen. They were smaller than Alliance vessels, but seemed to be built for speed rather than strength. Their hulls were smooth and white, marked with symbols he did not recognize. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the unknown fleet," the communications officer said. "Let's hear it." A new voice filled the bridge, speaking in accented but clear Alliance standard. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Prometheus. We have been monitoring your battle. Request permission to assist." Earth? Zarthak had never heard of it, but right now, he would take help from anyone. "Permission granted, Admiral Chen. Any assistance would be welcome." "Understood, Commander. Earth fleet moving to engage. Try to keep up." The human ships accelerated toward the Void Render with a speed that made Zarthak's eyes widen. Whatever these Earth beings were, they clearly were not afraid of the Empire's superweapon. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, watching the alien battle unfold on her main screen. Her crew worked quietly around her, their movements efficient and practiced. Unlike the chaotic bridges of the Alliance ships, where different species shouted orders in multiple languages, the human bridge was calm and organized. "Analysis complete, Admiral," reported her science officer, Lieutenant Torres. "The enemy vessel is using some form of exotic matter manipulation. Essentially, it's deleting sections of space-time." "Countermeasures?" Chen asked, her voice steady. "Theoretical. Possibilities exist. The weapon appears to require significant charging time and precise targeting. If we can disrupt either factor, we should be able to avoid the deletion effect." Chen nodded. Humans had been watching this galaxy's wars for months, studying every species and their technologies. The Deathworld Alliance had impressed her with their raw toughness, but they fought like berserkers, all fury and no strategy. The Kethvar Empire, on the other hand, relied too heavily on their superior technology. Both approaches had weaknesses that could be exploited. "Open a channel to all human ships," she ordered. "Channel open, Admiral. All vessels, this is Chen. Execute Pattern 7. Remember, we are here to observe and assist. Make sure our new friends see exactly what Earth is capable of." The human fleet broke formation and spread out in a pattern that looked random to outside observers, but Chen knew better. Every ship was moving to a precise position, creating a web of overlapping fields of fire and sensor coverage. It was a formation that her people had learned fighting wars on a world where every day was a battle for survival. "Admiral, the Alliance. Commander Zarthak is requesting direct communication," the communications officer reported. "Put him through." The main screen split to show the bridge of the Molten Fury. Chen studied the alien commander with professional interest. Zarthak was impressive, nearly 3 meters tall, with armor-like skin and eyes that glowed like hot coals. He looked like he had been built for war, which made sense for someone from a world called Molten's Heart. "Admiral Chen," Zarthak said, his voice deep and rough, "I must ask, what is Earth? We have no records of your species or your world in our databases." Chen smiled, the expression not reaching her eyes. "Earth is a small planet in what you would call the outer spiral. We have been watching the galaxy for some time, but this is our first direct contact with other species." "Watching?" Zarthak's glowing eyes narrowed. For how long? Long enough to learn about the Deathworld Alliance and your war with the HFY Empire. We decided it was time to introduce ourselves. What Chen did not say was that Earth had been watching for much longer than that. Human scout ships had been mapping the galaxy for decades, cataloging every species, every world, every military strength and weakness. The information had all been sent back to Earth, where the global government had spent years planning for this moment. If you come from the outer spiral, your world must be harsh indeed, Zarthak said. What kind of death world produced warriors capable of building ships like these? Chen's smile became more genuine. Oh, Commander, Earth is no death world. It's quite beautiful, actually. Blue skies, green forests, vast oceans. The temperature is comfortable, the air is breathable, and we have plenty of fresh water. She could see the confusion on Zarthak's face. The Alliance commander clearly could not understand how beings from such a soft world could be here, ready to fight the Void Render. I do not understand, Zarthak said finally. How do soft-worlders become warriors? Maybe we can discuss that later, Chen replied. Right now, I believe we have a battle to win. The Void Render had finished charging its main weapon again and was targeting one of the Alliance ships. But as the purple beam fired, something unexpected happened. 3 human ships had positioned themselves in carefully calculated locations, and as the beam passed between them, they fired their own weapons. The human weapons were not trying to destroy the beam. That would have been impossible. Instead, they were using precisely timed gravitational pulses to bend space around the beam, redirecting it away from the Alliance ship and into empty space. Impossible, Zarthak breathed, watching the display. How did you know where to position your ships? Mathematics, Commander, Chen replied, and a little understanding of physics. What she did not mention was that human ships had been recording every battle the Void Render had fought for months. Earth's computers had analyzed every shot, every movement, every tactical decision. They had built mathematical models that could predict the enemy's actions with frightening accuracy. The HFY Empire clearly had not expected their weapon to be countered. The Void Render hesitated for a moment, as if its commander was trying to understand what had just happened. That moment of confusion was all the human fleet needed. All ships, execute Phase 2, Chen ordered. The human vessels suddenly changed their formation again, but this time they were not just avoiding the enemy's fire. They were setting up something much more aggressive. Chen watched with satisfaction as her ships moved into position like pieces on a chessboard. Admiral, Zarthak said over the communication channel, what are your ships doing? That formation puts them directly in the enemy's firing line. Sometimes, Commander, the best defense is a good offense. The human ships opened fire all at once, but they were not aiming for the Void Render itself. Instead, they were targeting specific points in space around the massive ship. To the Alliance observers, it looked like the humans were shooting at nothing. But Chen knew better. Her science officers had identified the source of the Void Render's power: exotic matter generators hidden throughout the ship's structure. The human weapons were using quantum disruption fields to interfere with those generators, not trying to destroy them, but simply making them less efficient. The effect was immediate. The purple glow around the Void Render's main weapon began to flicker and fade. The ship's movements became less smooth, less graceful. For the first time since the battle had begun, the massive vessel looked vulnerable. Now, Commander Zarthak, Chen said, I believe this would be an excellent time for your ships to attack. Zarthak did not need to be told twice. All Alliance ships, full assault! Hit them while they are weakened! The remaining Alliance vessels charged forward, their weapons blazing. They moved with the fury of beings who had grown up fighting for their lives every day, and for the first time in the battle, their shots were actually damaging the Void Render's hull. But Chen was not finished. As the Alliance ships engaged the enemy at close range, her human vessels began a different kind of attack. Instead of trying to destroy the Void Render, they were systematically targeting its sensor arrays, its communication systems, its navigation equipment. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, enemy ship is showing signs of coordination breakdown. Their response time to our movements is increasing significantly. Chen nodded. This was exactly what she had hoped for. The HFY Empire had grown used to fighting primitive enemies who attacked with brute force. They had no experience dealing with opponents who used psychological warfare and information attacks. On the main screen, she could see the Void Render beginning to retreat. Its main weapon was still functional, but the exotic matter generators were running at only 60% efficiency. More importantly, the ship's crew was clearly confused and disoriented by the human tactics. They are withdrawing, Zarthak reported, his voice filled with amazement. The Void Render is actually retreating. So it would seem, Chen replied. But I doubt this is over. Ships like that don't give up easily. She was right. Even as the Void Render pulled back from the immediate battle zone, Chen could see it beginning to recharge its systems. The exotic matter generators were slowly returning to full power, and the ship's coordination was improving. Commander Zarthak, she said, I believe we need to discuss a more permanent solution to your Kethvar problem. What do you suggest? A formal alliance between Earth and the Deathworld Alliance. We have technology and tactics that could help you win this war. In return, we ask only for the chance to learn about your worlds and your people. Zarthak was quiet for a long moment. Chen could almost see the thoughts moving behind his glowing eyes. He was clearly suspicious. Beings from harsh worlds learned not to trust easily. But he was also practical. The Alliance needed help, and the humans had just proven they could provide it. I will need to discuss this with the Alliance Council, he said finally. Of course. But Commander, I should mention that the Void Render will likely return with reinforcements. Time may not be on our side. How long do you think we have? Chen looked at her tactical display, where computer models were calculating the Kethvar Empire's most likely next moves. Based on their retreat, pattern and recharge rate, I estimate 72 hours before they return in force. Then we had better talk quickly. The Alliance Council meeting took place on Forge Station, a massive space platform built from the combined technologies of a dozen death worlds. Commander Zarthak sat at the war table surrounded by the Alliance's most feared leaders. There was War Chief Groktar from the ice world of Frozen Hell, whose people could survive in temperatures that would freeze hydrogen solid. Beside him sat Hive Mother Skoth from the poison world of Venom Prime, her chitinous armor gleaming under the harsh lights. Admiral Chen entered the council chamber with 2 human officers, and Zarthak was struck again by how normal they looked. No armor-like skin, no natural weapons, no obvious adaptations for surviving in harsh environments. They seemed almost fragile compared to the battle-scarred beings around the table. Admiral Chen, Zarthak began, the council has reviewed your proposal for an alliance. We have questions. I expected you would, Chen replied, taking her seat calmly. Please, ask whatever you need to know. War Chief Groktar leaned forward, his breath creating small clouds of frost in the air. You say your world is soft, but your ships fight like they belong to Deathworld warriors. How is this possible? Chen smiled that same cold smile Zarthak had seen during the battle. War Chief, just because our world is beautiful does not mean it is peaceful. Earth has been home to countless wars, and we have learned much from them. Show us, demanded Hive Mother Skoth, her compound eyes glittering. Show us this soft world that produces such fighters. Chen nodded to one of her officers who activated a holographic display. Images of Earth appeared above the table, blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling in a normal atmosphere. It looked like paradise compared to the worlds the Alliance members called home. But as the images continued, something else became clear. Cities that had been bombed to rubble and rebuilt, monuments to wars that had killed millions. Museums filled with weapons that had been used to slaughter entire populations. Earth has been at war with itself for most of its history, Chen explained quietly. We have fought with stones and clubs, with swords and guns, with chemicals and nuclear weapons. We have learned to wage war in ways that would make even Deathworld warriors pause. The council members exchanged glances. Zarthak could see they were beginning to understand that these humans might be more dangerous than they appeared. What exactly are you offering? Asked Council Leader Marduk, a massive creature from a world where the gravity was 10 times normal. Complete tactical support, Chen replied. Human advisors on every Alliance ship, new weapons technologies. Most importantly, a strategy to not just defeat the Void Render, but to destroy the entire Kethvar Empire. And what do you want in return? Knowledge. We want to learn about your worlds, your technologies, your military capabilities. We want to understand how the Alliance operates, how your command structure works, how your people think and fight. Zarthak felt a cold warning in his gut. There was something about the way Chen said knowledge that made him uneasy. But with the Void Render likely to return with reinforcements, did they have a choice? We will need access to your population centers, Chen continued, to understand how your people live, how your societies function. And we will need detailed maps of your world's defenses. Why do you need to know about our defenses? War Chief Groktar asked suspiciously. To help you improve them, of course. Earth has extensive experience with defensive strategies. The answer sounded reasonable, but Zarthak noticed that Chen's eyes never quite met theirs when she spoke. Still, the alternative was facing the Kethvar Empire alone, and that had not gone well so far. "We accept," Council Leader Marduk announced after a brief discussion in the Alliance's coded battle language, "but we want human advisors to work under Alliance command, not independently." "Of course," Chen agreed. "We are here to help, not to take over." 2 days later, the Void Render returned, but it was not alone. 3 smaller HFY ships accompanied it, each one still larger than anything in the Alliance fleet. The combined human Alliance force met them in the Shattered Nebula, a region of space filled with the remnants of dead stars. Zarthak stood on his bridge with Lieutenant Commander Hayes, his new human advisor. Hayes was a small woman with cold, blue eyes and a smile that never seemed entirely friendly. She had spent the past 2 days studying everything about the Molten Fury and its crew, asking questions about their tactics, their weapons, even their personal histories. "Commander," Hayes said quietly, "I recommend we target the HFY support vessels first, specifically their civilian transport sections." "Civilian sections?" Zarthak frowned. "Those will be filled with non-combatants." "Exactly. Destroying. Then will cause psychological damage to the enemy crews. Fear and anger make people make mistakes." Zarthak felt his skin crawl. The Alliance had strict rules about targeting civilians. They were warriors, not murderers. But before he could object, Hayes continued. "Also, I suggest we use your heavy assault troops as a forward screen. Let them absorb the first wave of enemy fire while our more valuable ships maneuver into position." "You want to use my people as shields?" "I want to use them effectively. Deathworld warriors can survive damage that would destroy our ships. It's simple tactics." Around the bridge, Zarthak's crew was listening to this conversation with growing unease. These were beings who had fought beside each other for years, who had saved each other's lives countless times. The idea of deliberately sacrificing some of them did not sit well, but the human tactics worked. When the battle began, the Alliance, ships followed Hayes' suggestions, and the results were devastating for the HFY forces. The smaller enemy vessels were destroyed within the first hour, and even the mighty Void Render found itself taking serious damage. "Sir," reported the weapons officer, "the HFY are requesting a ceasefire." "Denied," Hayes said immediately. "Now is the time to press our advantage. All ships continue firing." "Wait," Zarthak said. "If they want to surrender, they do not want to surrender, Commander. They want time to regroup and call for reinforcements." "Trust me, showing mercy to enemies like this is a mistake." Zarthak hesitated. Everything the humans had suggested so far had worked, even if their methods made him uncomfortable. Maybe Hayes was right about this, too. "Continue the attack," he ordered. The Void Render and its remaining escort ship were destroyed within the next hour. But as Zarthak watched the enemy vessels break apart, he could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. The victory felt hollow, tainted by the methods they had used to achieve it. "Excellent work, Commander," Hayes said, making notes on her personal device. "I will be sure to include your tactical flexibility in my report to Admiral Chen." "What? Report? Oh, just routine observations about Alliance command structure and decision-making processes. Nothing to worry about." But Zarthak was beginning to worry. Over the past 2 days, he had noticed human advisors on every Alliance ship asking the same types of questions. They wanted to know about defensive capabilities, population centers, military hierarchies. They were gathering detailed information about every aspect of the Alliance's structure. "Lieutenant Commander Hayes," he said carefully, "may I ask what Earth plans to do with all this information you are collecting?" Hayes looked up from her device, and for just a moment, her friendly mask slipped. Her eyes were cold and calculating, like a predator studying prey. "Why, Commander? We plan to use it to help the Alliance, of course. After all, knowledge is power, and power shared is power doubled." She smiled as she said it, but Zarthak felt a chill run down his spine. Something about the way she spoke reminded him of the way hunters on his homeworld talked about their prey. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we are receiving a priority message from the Council. Put it through." Council Leader Marduk's face appeared on the screen, and Zarthak could see worry in the massive being's eyes. "Commander, we have received disturbing reports from our other fleets. Human advisors are asking detailed questions about our home, world defenses, our population centers, our most valuable strategic resources. Some of our people are beginning to question Earth's true motives." "I share those concerns," Zarthak replied, glancing at Hayes, who was pretending not to listen, while clearly recording every word. "There is more. Our intelligence officers have been trying to learn about Earth, but their databases contain no information about human space. It is as if they appeared from nowhere." "What are you suggesting?" "I am suggesting that we may have invited something very dangerous into our midst. Keep your eyes open, old friend, and watch your human advisor very carefully. The transmission ended, leaving Zarthak staring at the blank screen. Beside him, Hayes was still making notes on her device, her fingers moving quickly across the surface. "Something wrong, Commander?" she asked without looking up. "No," Zarthak lied. "Nothing at all." But he was beginning to suspect that the Kethvar Empire might not be the most dangerous enemy the Alliance faced. The intercepted transmission changed everything. Zarthak stared at the holographic display in his private quarters, reading the decoded human communication for the third time. His intelligence officer, a spider-like being from the cave world of Webtar, had managed to crack the encryption on human military channels. What they had found made Zarthak's blood run cold. Priority transmission. Earth command to Admiral Chen, the message began. Phase 1 complete. Alliance tactical capabilities assessed and catalogued. Kethvar technology samples secured. Deathworld population centers and defensive structures mapped. Begin Phase 2 immediately. Eliminate all potential resistance. Make it look like continuation of current conflict. Earth sends its regards. The intelligence officer clicked his mandibles nervously. Commander, there are dozens of similar messages. The humans have been reporting on every aspect of our military structure, our weaknesses, our homeworld locations. They know everything about us. Zarthak felt the familiar burn of rage building in his chest, but this time it was different. This was not the hot fury of battle. This was the cold anger of betrayal. The humans had been playing them from the beginning, using the Alliance's own desperation against them. "How long have they been planning this?" he asked. "Based on the technical detail in their reports, I would say years, maybe decades. They have files on every Alliance species, every member world, every piece of military technology we have ever used." Zarthak stood up slowly, his massive frame casting shadows across the small room. "Send a coded message to all Alliance ships. Tell them to monitor their human advisors closely. Do not let them know we are suspicious." "Yes, sir. But, Commander, what are we going to do? The humans have advisors on every ship in our fleet. They know our positions, our capabilities, our battle plans. Then we are going to have to be very careful about our next moves." But even as Zarthak spoke, he could hear the sound of weapons charging outside his quarters. The distinctive whine of human energy weapons, not Alliance equipment. The door to his quarters burst open, and Lieutenant Commander Hayes stepped inside with 2 human soldiers. Their weapons were aimed directly at Zarthak's chest. "I am sorry, Commander," Hayes said, though she did not look sorry at all. "But I am afraid your intelligence officer is not as clever as he thinks. We have been monitoring your communications since we arrived." Behind Hayes, Zarthak could see smoke rising from other parts of his ship. The sounds of fighting echoed through the corridors as human advisors turned on their Alliance hosts. "Why?" Zarthak asked, his voice steady despite the rage burning inside him. "We trusted you. We welcomed you as allies." Hayes tilted her head, studying him like a scientist examining an interesting specimen. "Why?" "Because that is what humans do, Commander. We survive. We adapt. We conquer. You said Earth was a soft world. I lied." Hayes' smile was sharp and predatory. "Earth is not a soft world, Commander. Earth is the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. Do you want to know what makes Earth special?" Zarthak said nothing, but Hayes continued anyway. "Every other death world in the galaxy is dangerous because of its environment. Extreme temperatures, toxic atmospheres, deadly weather. But Earth is different. Earth is dangerous because of what? Lives on it." She gestured to her soldiers, who kept their weapons trained on Zarthak while she spoke. "For millions of years, every species on Earth has been locked in constant warfare with every other species, predators and prey, locked in an endless arms race of evolution. And humans are the species that won that war." "Impossible," Zarthak growled. "No single species could dominate an entire world." "Oh, but we did. We hunted the great predators to extinction. We tamed the strongest beasts. We burned down forests and reshaped continents. We turned an entire planet into our weapon." Hayes began walking around the room, examining Zarthak's personal belongings with casual interest. "And then we turned. That same ruthless efficiency on each other. Wars that lasted for centuries. Weapons that could destroy entire cities. We learned to manipulate, to deceive, to strike at our enemies' weaknesses. We became the most efficient killers in the galaxy. The Deathworld Alliance has warriors from dozens of harsh worlds," Zarthak said. "We have survived things that would destroy your soft bodies." Survived, yes. But you survived by becoming tough, by developing thick skin and strong muscles. We survived by becoming smart, by learning to use tools, to plan ahead, to work together when it served our purposes, and to betray when it did not. Hayes stopped in front of a holographic image of Molten's heart, Zarthak's home world. The picture showed massive volcanoes and rivers of lava, a landscape that would kill most beings in minutes. Your people adapted to their environment, Commander. But humans adapted their environment to themselves. We did not learn to survive in the cold. We invented heating. We did not develop thick skin for radiation. We built shields. We did not evolve claws and teeth. We created weapons, far more deadly than any natural predator could possess. And now you want to do the same to the galaxy. Now we are going to do the same to the galaxy, Hayes corrected. This war between the Alliance and the Kethvar Empire has been very convenient for us. Two of the galaxy's most powerful military forces, wearing each other down, revealing their secrets, weakening themselves. The ship shuddered as explosions echoed through the hull. Zarthak could hear his crew fighting and dying in the corridors outside, but the humans had planned their takeover too well. Every Alliance ship in the fleet was experiencing the same betrayal at the same moment. "Sir," came a voice over the communication system, "this is Admiral Chen. I regret to inform you that the human advisory mission has concluded. Earth is now assuming direct control of this fleet." Hayes activated her own communication device. "Admiral, this is Hayes. Commander Zarthak is secure." "Excellent work, Lieutenant Commander. How many Alliance casualties?" "Minimal resistance on most ships. These Deathworlders are tough, but they are not very good at fighting enemies who are already inside their defenses." Zarthak felt sick. The humans had not just betrayed the Alliance. They had studied them so carefully that they knew exactly how to exploit their weaknesses. All those questions about command structure, about how Alliance crews operated, about their tactical doctrines. It had all been preparation for this moment. "What about the Kethvar Empire?" he asked. "Were they part of your plan too?" Hayes laughed. "Oh no, Commander. The Kethvar Empire is quite real and quite dangerous. In fact, that is why we needed to take control of your fleet." "I do not understand." "The Void Render will return, probably within the next few hours. Our intelligence suggests that the Kethvar Empire has decided to commit their full fleet to destroying the Alliance once and for all. They will bring dozens of ships, maybe hundreds. Then you will face them with a handful of human vessels and captured Alliance ships with crews that want to kill you." "Actually, Commander, we will face them with something much more effective." Hayes smiled again. "We will face them with you." She gestured to her soldiers, who moved to flank Zarthak. "You are going to help us fight the Kethvar Empire, Commander. You and every other Alliance captain. You are going to follow our orders, use our tactics, and help us destroy our mutual enemies." "Why would we do that?" "Because if you do not, we will destroy your homeworlds. Every planet in the Alliance has human research teams on it right now, Commander. Teams with enough nuclear weapons to turn entire continents into radioactive glass." Zarthak felt the words hit him like a physical blow. The humans had not just infiltrated the Alliance fleet. They had invaded every Alliance world. "You are monsters," he said quietly. "No, Commander. We are humans. And now you are going to learn exactly what that means." The communication system crackled to life again. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Long-range sensors are detecting a massive Kethvar fleet approaching. Estimated time to contact, 2 hours. All vessels will prepare for battle under human command." Hayes holstered her weapon and straightened her uniform. "I suggest you get ready, Commander. This is going to be a very interesting fight." As she left his quarters with her soldiers, Zarthak sank into his chair and stared at the image of his home world. Somewhere down there, human weapons were pointed at billions of innocent beings. His people, who had trusted him to protect them, were now hostages in a game they did not even know they were playing. Outside his window, he could see the human fleet taking formation around the captured Alliance ships. And beyond them, at the edge of sensor range, the dark shapes of Kethvar vessels were beginning to appear. The galaxy's real war was about to begin. The Kethvar armada was magnificent and terrible to behold. Hundreds of ships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system, their dark hulls gleaming with the same sickly purple energy that powered the Void Render. At the center of the fleet, a vessel even larger than the original dreadnought hung in space like a metallic moon. Commander Zarthak stood on his bridge under heavy human guard, watching the enemy approach. The past 2 hours had been a nightmare of human efficiency. Alliance crews who resisted had been killed without hesitation. Those who cooperated were allowed to live but were monitored constantly. The humans had turned the proud Alliance fleet into a slave army in a matter of hours. "Sir," his communications officer whispered, "I am receiving a coded transmission. Source unknown." "Put it through my private earpiece," Zarthak ordered, hoping the humans would not notice. The voice that spoke was cultured and cold, with the distinctive accent of the Kethvar Empire. "Commander Zarthak of the Deathworld Alliance, this is Overlord Mektal of the Void Render. I believe we need to talk." Zarthak glanced around his bridge. Lieutenant Commander Hayes was focused on her tactical display, apparently unaware of the incoming message. He touched his earpiece, activating the reply function. "We have nothing to discuss, Mektal. You are our enemy." "Was your enemy, Commander. Now I believe we share a common problem. The humans have revealed their true nature, have they not?" Zarthak felt his blood chill. How could Mektal know about the human betrayal? "You seem surprised," Mektal continued. "Did you think the Kethvar Empire was ignorant of Earth's activities? We have been watching the humans for much longer than you have, Commander. We know what they truly are." "Then why did you not warn us?" "Because the Alliance was our enemy. We saw no reason to help you avoid a trap that would weaken you for our eventual conquest. But now, the situation has changed." Hayes looked up from her display and frowned at Zarthak. "Commander, is something wrong? You look distracted." "Just thinking about the coming battle," Zarthak replied carefully. Hayes nodded and returned to her work. In his earpiece, Mektal continued speaking. "The humans believe they can use your fleet and ours to destroy each other, leaving Earth as the dominant power in the galaxy. They are probably correct, unless we do something unexpected." "What are you suggesting?" "An alliance, Commander, temporary but necessary. The Kethvar Empire and the Deathworld Alliance working together to eliminate the real threat." Zarthak almost laughed at the irony. Yesterday, such a suggestion would have been unthinkable. The Alliance and the Empire had been mortal enemies for months. But now, with human weapons pointed at both their peoples, the impossible had become necessary. "How do I know this is not another trap?" "Because, Commander, if I wanted you dead, I would simply let the humans finish what they started. My fleet outnumbers yours 3-1. I could wait for the humans to weaken you, then destroy the survivors." That was uncomfortably logical. Mektal had no reason to offer an alliance, unless he genuinely believed the humans were a greater threat than the Alliance. "What do you propose?" Coordinated strike. Your ships are closer to the human fleet. You can attack their command vessels before they realize what is happening. My forces will engage their main battle line. If we time it correctly, we can catch them between us. The humans have advisors on every Alliance ship. They will know our plans. Not if we use a communication method they cannot intercept. The Kethvar Empire has certain advantages when it comes to quantum communications." Zarthak felt a strange sensation in his mind, as if someone was speaking directly into his thoughts. Mektal's voice now came from inside his head rather than through his earpiece. "Can you hear me, Commander?" "Yes," Zarthak thought back, hoping it would work. "Excellent. This channel is completely secure. The humans cannot detect or intercept quantum telepathic communication." "How is this possible?" "The Kethvar Empire has had certain encounters with species that exist partially outside normal space-time. We learned much from them before we absorbed their territories." Despite everything, Zarthak felt a chill at the casual way Mektal spoke of conquest and absorption. The Kethvar Empire was still his enemy. They were just a more honest enemy than the humans had turned out to be. "Can you contact other Alliance ships this way?" "I can contact their commanders, yes. But, Commander, you must understand. This alliance is temporary. Once the humans are dealt with, the Empire and the Alliance will return to being enemies." "I understand. But first, we must survive." "Indeed. Are you ready to begin?" Zarthak looked around his bridge one more time. His crew sat at their stations under human guard, their faces showing the strain of serving under the weapons of their supposed allies. Hayes and her soldiers moved with the casual confidence of conquerors, certain that they had already won. It was time to show them how wrong they were. "I am ready," he thought to Mektal. Instantly, Zarthak felt new voices joining the quantum communication network. Alliance commanders from a dozen ships, all receiving the same impossible offer of alliance from their former enemy. There was confusion, anger, suspicion, but also desperate hope. "All Alliance vessels," Mektal's voice echoed in their minds. "Prepare for coordinated strike on human command ships. Execute in 30 seconds. Hayes looked up from her tactical display with a frown. "Commander, our sensors are detecting some unusual quantum fluctuations. Are your people doing something?" "Just routine maintenance on our communication arrays," Zarthak lied. 20 seconds. Mektal counted down. Remember, target human command personnel first. Disable their ability to coordinate. Zarthak caught the eye of his weapons officer and gave an almost invisible nod. Around the bridge, his crew began to tense, preparing for action. 10 seconds. All ships, prepare to fire. Hayes was studying her displays more intently now. Commander, these quantum readings are very unusual. I think... Now! Mektal's mental shout rang through every Alliance mind. Zarthak spun and struck Hayes with one massive fist, sending her flying across the bridge. Around him, his crew erupted into action, overwhelming their human guards with the fury of beings who had been betrayed once too often. Throughout the Alliance fleet, the same scene played out on dozens of ships. Human advisors and guards found themselves facing Deathworld warriors who no longer cared about the consequences of resistance. All Alliance ships, fire on human vessels! Zarthak roared into his communications system. The response was immediate and devastating. Every Alliance ship opened fire on their nearest human counterpart, catching Admiral Chen's fleet completely by surprise. The humans had been so confident in their control that they had not bothered to maintain proper defensive formations. At the same moment, the Kethvar armada accelerated into the battle zone, their exotic weapons blazing. The humans suddenly found themselves caught between two enemies they had thought were under control. "Sir," Zarthak's tactical officer reported, "the human flagship is trying to withdraw." "Not acceptable," Zarthak growled. "All weapons target the Prometheus." Admiral Chen's ship was fast, but it was not fast enough to escape the combined fire of Alliance and Kethvar vessels. The proud human flagship began to break apart under the assault, its hull cracking and atmosphere venting into space. "Commander Zarthak," came Admiral Chen's voice over the communication system, static-filled and desperate. "You are making a mistake. The Kethvar Empire will turn on you the moment we are defeated. You cannot trust them." "Perhaps not," Zarthak replied. "But at least they were honest about being our enemies." The Prometheus exploded in a brilliant flash of light, taking Admiral Chen and her dreams of human galactic dominance with it. The battle continued for another 3 hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. Caught between the Alliance and the Empire, the human fleet was systematically destroyed. Some ships tried to surrender, but neither the Alliance nor the Kethvar were in a mood for mercy. When the last human vessel was nothing but debris, and strange quiet settled over the battlefield. Alliance and Kethvar ships drifted among the wreckage, their crews probably wondering what happened next. "Commander Zarthak," Mektal's voice returned to his mind. "The immediate threat has been eliminated. But as I warned you, our alliance is now ended." "I understand, Overlord. When do we resume hostilities?" "Not today. Both our fleets have taken heavy casualties, and there are other matters to consider." Zarthak frowned. "What matters?" "The human ships we just destroyed were only a scouting force, Commander. Our intelligence suggests that Earth's main battle fleet is still out there, somewhere in the darkness. They will have learned from this defeat." The implications hit Zarthak like a blow to the stomach. If the humans they had just fought were only scouts, then the real Earth armada was still coming. "How many ships are we talking about?" he asked. "Thousands. Commander, perhaps tens of thousands. Earth has been building in secret for decades, preparing for this moment." Zarthak looked out at his battered fleet, then at the equally damaged Kethvar vessels. Neither force was in any condition to fight another major battle. "Then what do? "We prepare, Commander. We rebuild our fleets, we strengthen our defenses, and we try to be ready for what is coming. And our war with each other? We'll have to wait. The humans have united us in a way that diplomacy never."